Hey there, fellow horse lovers. Welcome back to the Daily Ride podcast. I'm so excited for today's episode where I got to interview Tommy Gesell of Gazelle Equine. Tommy was a connection referred to me by my dear friend Alyssa, who grew up fox hunting, and Tommy is connected to her through the fox hunting community. Tommy has a wealth of knowledge training horses of all breeds and all backgrounds out of South Carolina, and he has his own training business called Gazelle Equine. Tommy is a wealth of knowledge with off-the-track thoroughbreds, and he can speak at length as to the mindsets, lessons, and outlooks that being a professional horse trainer has brought to him and his life personally, and can speak at length to a variety of experiences that I personally found fascinating. One of the gifts that horses have blessed Tommy with in his life is his love for embracing curiosity and developing an active, engaged mindset. And I think this can be easily applied to the rest of your life, and to not doubt yourself or your horse and know that you're capable of so much more. Your horse is capable of so much more. And it's just a matter of patience and being curious and flexible. I really appreciated talking to Tommy, and I hope that you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. As always, the Daily Ride podcast supports True Heart Healing. True Heart Healing is my nonprofit organization aimed to leverage the healing power of equine partnership and the joy of equine companionship to support and empower children with disabilities and/or life-altering illnesses, service members, veterans, and their families build stabilizing relationships, facilitate learning and personal growth, find hope, and discover purpose. If this is something that you would like to support, please head on over to www.the-daily-ride.com to check us out and make a donation. Trueheart and I greatly appreciate your support. I had so much fun talking to Tommy that I've decided to cut our interview into two parts. Today's episode is part 2 of my interview with Tommy Gesell. Do you find that there are certain qualities in horses or human clients that you've had that really make them a joy to work with?
Well, I do. I love it when, yes, people just drop me a horse and they say, do what you do. We'll see you in 60, 90, 120 days, whatever it is. But then there's also the clients that might not know necessarily a lot about breaking babies, but they know a lot about the career that they're going to take that horse in. So sometimes it's very valuable to me to have them co-train, to have them at some point say, let's make a bridle change on this horse. Let's change a little bit in the way he carries himself. To me, that's super valuable. Now, that's doesn't happen very often, but when it does, I try to take as much, I don't want to say take advantage of it, but just take the knowledge that they're giving me, and just like
soak it up.
And soak it up. And at the same time, if it's something that doesn't serve me, just let it go. But it's so, yeah, both clients or owners will benefit me either way. But it is sometimes easier to have a client drop off a horse and say, do what you do because that's what you do. And then, another part of my program as well is after a certain point, every owner that's got a horse with me is going to be involved with that horse's training. For instance, a little yellow horse I got in training right now, he's at a point now to where his trainer comes out once a week and works with me, riding him, not just sitting on him, but actually working him. And to have an owner say, wow, I'm actually at 30, let's say 30 days in work, to have them say, I'm actually working this horse, not just riding them, but working them. To me, that's just incredible. That's one of the main reasons why I absolutely love what I do. And then to have a trainer come out and say, ride a horse at 30 days and say the same thing, but then apply their training to the horse and have that horse respond to them correctly is the same thing. It's all rewarding to watch the owners ride their young horses in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. So it sounds like you kind of take this collaborative approach with both the horse and the human at a certain point in your program where you're kind of training them both together.
Oh, absolutely. It's to me, that's the way it's got to work.
Mm.
And that's a big part, and something that's a part of my program is that horse is not going home until I see you ride it. And we can sit and discuss the way you ride it, what you need to change, because once that horse goes home, if that horse is 300 miles from here, I can't go help him. It's not like I can drop what I'm doing and run down the road and give you a hand with your horse. That's why it's so important for my clients and the owners to be involved with the training of their young horse, or even a horse that's already broken going, that's getting legged up or getting refined in a sense. I don't want to do all the work and then have that horse go home and that rider and the owner not understand how that horse is supposed to go correctly, like, or go the way I taught them. So that's another.
Accidentally undo what you've done. Yeah.
You're exactly right on that. And so it is important for my owners and clients to be involved with the training of their horses. And that could be at 30 days, that could be at 60 days. I prefer it at 60 days because the horse is going a little bit better, and it's easier to communicate what I've done and the way the horse is going to the owner, as opposed to a horse that has no idea how to carry himself in a straight line. But yes, ma'am, it is very, very important for my owners and clients to be involved with the training of their horses.
Sounds like you really have a passion for teaching in general, both horses and humans. What do you love most about teaching?
Wow. Well, for my students, it's that aha moment. It's their realization that they're doing something that they either didn't think they ever could or didn't think they could do well. It's it's awesome to see what happens when everything just clicks to them, and I enjoy their watching their confidence grow. It's a rewarding feeling to be able to take an animal that might have intimidated them in a sense, and then to have that student be confident and say, I'm riding, I'm not just a passenger, but I'm the driver. And it's just rewarding to see that. And also this is, I think, one of the best things in teaching is I enjoy riding the horses, my students' horses, in front of them, because sometimes the rider doesn't think their horse can do what it can do, but often once they see me do it, they begin, to have more faith in their horse. And also, it's just every horse I get on teaches me something. In the process of teaching either horse and rider, I'm learning at the same time. Either it's how to communicate to certain people what I'm teaching their horse, but also learning from their horses as well. So if I get on a horse that, a lady's riding in a snaffle and it's just dragging her around and she can't really necessarily get control of it, I might say, for instance, let's just say I had a student one time, and she rode with a halter under her bridle. And I got on the horse and I was like, boy, this thing can, it's like, driving a jet ski with a weak motor. It just drifts. And so, and she had snap on reins. And so I looked down and I said, why don't you take those reins off and snap them to the cheek pieces of the halter for me? And so she did. And immediately I had a different horse in my hands. The
Hmm.
horse gave. He framed up off of just being ridden off his nose, basically halter.
Huh.
So in that time, this is during a clinic I was giving. I asked if anyone had a mechanical hackamore with them. And one lady said, yes, I've got one at the barn. And so she went and got it. And I had worked with a few more people in the meantime, and then went back to this lady and her horse, put the mechanical hackamore on it, and I got on him and I wanted to explain to the lady how the mechanical hackamore works, and I wanted to get a feeling to make sure that this horse was going to understand the mechanical hackamore, and he went around like a dream,
Hmm.
absolute dream. And so then I explained to the rider, this is the way you're going to ride this hackamore, and she got on it, and she's like, oh my god, I can't believe this is the same horse. I said, yeah, it just took a little bit of thought and experimenting and maybe curiosity to figure out why this horse was going so rotten when actually he knew exactly what he was supposed to do. There was just maybe a misunderstanding in what the way I should ride this horse, what I should put in this horse's mouth versus riding him in a hackamore. So those types of things, like when I did that, it was just because this is what I think about. And I'm probably going to say this several more times. It's all I think about. All I think about. And as we're speaking right now, I'm thinking about the horses I'm going to ride tomorrow and what I'm going to do with them.
So, what do you think is the most common misconception that riders have when they're trying to improve their horsemanship? Is it the underestimation of their horse, like you just shared, or that they don't have faith that their horse can do something, or that they don't have faith in themselves?
Well, two things. The one misconception is that most people think they have to be perfect or as good as they once were the minute they, start back to riding. Of course, we know that's not going to happen. It's just ridiculous to think that. And secondly, but probably most importantly, is that once you've chosen a discipline, you're stuck there. It's not true. There's no law that states you can't take your dressage horse on a trail ride. There's no reason you can't take your lower level jumper and go move cows. You don't have to confine your horse or yourself to one discipline. Open the gate, get out, just go. And also there's no just anything. I hate it when people say, oh, we just trail ride, or that they just do anything. Any activity you engage in with your horse means what it means to you. You don't have to impress anyone. Well, your horse maybe, or unless you're in the show ring, of course you have to impress the judges. But you don't have to justify what you're doing. You're riding, period. Flat out, you're riding. And I find the comparison of disciplines just ludicrous, just ridiculous. Cutting isn't better than showmanship. Jumping for speed isn't better than a nice hunter round. It's what it is to you. And everyone should just put that premise down. Don't make room for comparison against something you're not even doing. Don't let it take up space in your brain. If you're riding a dressage horse, don't compare yourself to a successful cutting horse rider. There's no comparison there. But at the same time, you're still riding, you're still competing. So keep that in mind. And like I said, open the gate, get out.
That sounds like a great approach for teaching students of all levels and disciplines. Don't mentally box yourself into one thing.
Yes, you said it much easier than I did.
Yeah, open the gate. Well, and it is what it is to you, but I think the other part of it is it bringing you joy, and can you be present with that in the moment and soak that up and enjoy just the fact that you're with your horse and you're doing the thing?
I used to say that it was so hard for me to enjoy my horses because it was work. It's a job. It's a career for me. And to me, it was hard to the minute, how do I say this? It took a long time for me to say I enjoy my horses. And I mean that by my own horses. And it was probably while I was fox hunting, I was at the end of the season, I would go down to Columbus, Georgia, and ride with Chris Ryan, huntsman for the Scar team in Ireland. Just an amazing, amazing horseman. And I would go down and ride with him, and it was just me and my horse. And it was so much fun because I had a nice horse, Argo, and another horse, Cricket, that I had, little tiny gray horse that was a machine. But it was me and my horse. And then after circumstance and some injury, I quit fox hunting. We dismantled our pack, and I quit jumping. I realized happened for an absolute reason. But I lost those times of me and my horse. Like just me and my horse I can enjoy. And I became quite stale, quite stagnant in what I did, and a little bit depressed. And then all of a sudden there was an opportunity where all of a sudden I could, Gazelle Equine really started to form and come together. And the man I work for, gave me an opportunity to open my books again, to start bringing in new horses to work for the public. And all of a sudden, I realized that, wow, if I'm going to open my books again, a huge amount of horses down here are going to be jumping horses. So I've got to start jumping again. And so I went out, there was a lady not too far from here that had a jump course for sale. So I went and bought it and I set it up in the ring we had here and started trying to get my feet back under me. I had a horse that I saw potential in and started jumping him. And oh gosh, I guess that would have been last October. And then I had opportunity to go to a jump clinic that about a month, 6 weeks ago with this buckskin horse. Instead of like I used to do when it was me and my horse, I'd put them in a barn, fancy barn, just let them be, and I'd go nice, comfortable hotel room. This time it was putting the horse in the barn and setting camp up in the horse trailer. But it was me and my horse. And to me, it was, am I back to doing what I absolutely am supposed to be doing? And it feels strange again to, and I might have hit on this earlier, is love my horse, not my client's horse, my horse. And so yeah, it took a long time to really enjoy spending time with my horses and become, I guess, Morgan, the easiest way to say it is become an owner, to become one of my clients per se, because I looked at horses as, these are, don't get attached to them because they will be leaving at some point. But now I've got horses that I own, that I make the decision when they leave. I make a decision what they do. So it's, yeah, me and my horses. And sometimes I say to myself or to my friends, it's like every 3 to 5 years, there seems to be this evolution, this dramatic change in what I'm doing with my horses and my clients' horses. There's a lot of it comes with like I say, quit comparing yourself to other riders, other horsemen, and accept what you do. And I'm there, and that's very, very hard for me to accept that. Yeah, I think I'm a pretty good horseman, and that was really hard for me to say. But I go to the barn in the morning, I put a foot in the stirrup, and that's it. It just clicks. And I can't explain it. And it's just something that, boy, my wife, Amy, she could explain it a lot better than I could, or make it sound, a little more articulate. But, truly speaking from the heart on this, Morgan, it's just, I wake up every morning and I'm still doing this. And what am I going to do today that I thought about all night? And sometimes it changes. It'll change. And that's the fun thing about the horsemanship is sometimes what you have in your brain, what you've thought about all night long, what you're going to do with the horse, you get to the barn that morning, you look at that horse and you say, not today. I'm going to do something different. That's part of having that open mind as well. And allowing yourself to have that open mind to make a change and say, today's not the day that I'm going to lay that horse down. Today's not the day that I'm going to put, the English saddle on them. They seem a little bit fresh. So let's not put the pressure on them. Let's give them a good day, which in turn gives you a good day as well.
Wow. It's true. Like even the most well-intentioned plans, it takes a lot of wisdom to be able to go out and look at your horse and be like, yeah, might be a good idea, but that idea is not the best idea for today. Like not now, not yet. And yeah, it takes a lot of experience and wisdom to be able to recognize that and exercise that. And like you said, develop that active, flexible mind.
Yes.
What is one lesson you wish that your riders, your clients, your students could learn early on in their horsemanship before they've had a chance to develop that kind of wisdom?
Wow, this is something I think about a lot. And I would love it if people just learn to keep it simple and practical. what I mean by that is don't fall into the trap of bells and whistles or unnecessary special equipment. There isn't, and I've said this before, there isn't a one size fits all formula for this. For example, just because you accomplish some arbitrary step like step 1, step 2 doesn't necessarily mean that the horse is ready for some step 3, or that there is a time frame for any of those steps. And also, it's one thing to admire a horseman for their skills, and it's so easy to watch them at their best and think, well, that's what my horse must need. Plus, you're always seeing these guys at their best. You know, we screw up. You know, we screw up sometimes. Plain and simple. All of us. And anyway, it's another thing to get wrapped in the idolization of any one person and one method. That's kind of, in my eyes, limiting. I mean, don't you think? There again, you're putting yourself in this little tiny box.
Yeah.
Anyway, my wish for new riders or riders returning to the sport is that they approach it from a very basic, simple position. If there's a horseman they admire, that's great. Just be open to the idea that one person, what one person says isn't written in stone. Leave room for different approaches. That's what's, why I love this. And, simply put, there's a key for every lock, right?
Huh?
It's so, it's again, it's that open mind in horsemanship, and when these riders are, that misconception of basically it's a formula or a X number step program. I just don't agree with that, and I keep an open mind when it comes to horsemanship and getting back into horsemanship.
Yeah. Just because, or yeah, someone you admire or something that you've done with the horse in the past, like, well, you're a different person than you were back then. And this might be a very different horse.
Absolutely.
Now, I've been dying to ask you about this. I was connected to you through a friend of mine, Alyssa, who also grew up fox hunting. And so she connected me to you because that's the community that you were a part of as well. So, what is fox hunting and what drew you to the sport?
Wow. Well, let's see if I can keep this short and not go on and on. Fox hunting is at its core horses and riders riding with hounds as they find and follow, either a man made scent, which we call the drag, or they're doing the same thing but following live quarry. Mostly fox, or if they bored or don't have anything else to do, they're running deer or raccoon. When they get bored. But it was a form of pest control. Long, eons ago. Let's put it that way. There's a longish story about how I fell into the sport. But basically, like I said, about the Mustang, I was invited by a friend to come, ride at a trail ride on his property, not knowing that it was a fox hunt. And it was just me and another friend and the Mustangs. And we showed up in, stock saddles and jeans, and of course had to ride in the third field, in the back. But when we pulled up to the place where they were fox hunting, the first thing I said was, "Holy crap, we're at a fox hunt." And I just kind of rubbed my forehead and shook my head, and I was like, "Shit." And that was my introduction to the sport. But I will say that fox hunting at the time was sort of like a drug. The teamwork required among horses, hounds, and humans is pretty damn inspiring. Initially, I thought, wow, this is a good thing to do with your horse, and it really is. It requires confidence and great communication, quick thinking in certain fields. And when I say fields, I'm talking about certain areas where you're riding and whatnot. And then moving up from hilltopper position, which would be the very back, walk trot people. That's what they mostly do in third field. And then working your way up through the fields to go faster and then start jumping. It's just a really beautiful thing to watch that progression in the fox hunting field. And then to watch horses learn the ropes, gain their own confidence, and go from the back to the front of the line is also goes along with watching the riders progress as well, but also do it together. And, to me, what makes a really good fox hunting horse is just by doing it. I've met a lot of people who do some really weird things, like crowd horses with beach balls. But, I'm a big believer in just teaching the horse by doing.
Mm.
And, a great fox hunter is an adaptable and confident horse. And you make a confident horse by putting them through the motions, not surrounding them by beach balls.
Just the mental image of that is hysterical to me.
Yeah, if I had the picture, I'd send it to you.
My goodness. What must be going through that horse's head, too? Like,
Wasn't scared of beach balls, so you can take him to
wait,
the beach.
yeah, probably wondering what on earth he did to deserve this kind of weirdness from his human.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Oh my gosh. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about fox hunting?
Well, that it's an, elegant gentleman's only sport. The hunt fields were originally comprised of farmers, the land gentry, and the only class division was you were in the field, slow or fast. Everybody was the same in the fields back then, and today, just like any activity where people gather, it can be cliquish, and it is a cliquish sport. That being said, when I had my pack of hounds, I had a group of really good people, and we had a great time for a long time. And there's several reasons that I stopped, and one is that they're just like everything, a lot of politics involved. And it made things really exhausting. I didn't expect that when I first started fox hunting, but as I got deeper and deeper into it, more serious, cared about it more, I did realize that there are a lot of politics that go into fox hunting. And I didn't start fox hunting to play, like Masters of the Universe. I just wanted to hunt hounds and ride horses. You know, I had my own hunt, and after 7 years, it really took a toll on me. It's difficult to try to avoid getting attached to it. And this is, one of I think a lot of people in fox hunting don't understand, and they don't see because they just don't see because they ride in the field. They don't do anything with the hounds. And this was, you have to bear with me if it eventually brings a tear to my eye to talk about this. It's hard not to get attached to any one hound, but you do. It just happens. They get injured. They get old. They die. It's just a lot to keep up with. And so now it's something I may return to visit one day, but I don't ever want to be as entrenched in the sport as I once was. I just don't. There was a time when I could never, ever have imagined saying that I wasn't interested in fox hunting. And Amy once had a conversation with this incredible horseman and former fox hunter, Rupert Isaacson, author of The Wild Host.
Horse boy.
Horse boy, yes, ma'am. And he explained to her why he chose to step away from the sport. And at the time, I thought, wow, that's heavy, but I still can't imagine stopping. Well, I can't imagine stopping. I did. Don't get me wrong. In its purest form, can be one of the most beautiful things a person could witness. The hounds find. They communicate to you that they found and are in pursuit. You and your reliable hunt horse know what that sound means, and off you go. Three entirely separate creatures all communicating with each other with one singular goal in mind. And that's thrilling. That's cool. And sort of a romantic version of the hunt. It's addicting and thrilling. But
yeah, it's amazing. Like you said, and there's no language and no verbal words. But you understand each other across species.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, I think, when that came and when I really started to get into fox hunting, I guess I just went along and went and did what I did without thinking that, it is these three different minds all working together, all understanding what this means, what that means, and they all communicate together, for a successful day of hunting. And I think I know, I'm sure that goes across every discipline, not just fox hunting. But anytime you're sitting on a horse and you're riding a horse, you're working with a mind of its own. And to be able to communicate with that mind successfully, seamlessly, and get done what you want to get done with that horse is one of the biggest pleasures any horseman, any trainer can have. And I think it's something that, and I'll say this to the day I die, every success is short lived for me, because the next day I can always be better at what I do. I can always be a better horseman. I can always be a better team roper. I can always be a better jumper the next day. I don't compete, but I practice discipline. And when I say I practice discipline, that means discipline in my horsemanship and discipline in learning the disciplines themselves. And so there's days that I really focus on jumping. There's days that I really focus on getting a horse to give me a canter departure from a standstill. Every day I can be better, and therefore my horse can be better. And I think that's something that people in this industry, be it as professionals or hobbyists, it's something they should strive for every single day they put a foot in the stirrup.
Uh, uh, yeah, this continuous improvement, those high expectations for yourself and your horse.
Yes, and stay engaged, because, to me, when it comes to horses, one of the worst things that can happen to a person is just to get bored.
Uh,
Get bored with your horse, and so, keep your mind engaged, keep their mind engaged, and the only thing that can come out of that is being a better horseman.
yeah. What's the best lesson a horse has taught you?
Oh, wow. Well, horses have taught me a great deal of patience. I'll say that, but along with that, humility and just the need to keep an open and active mind. And what I mean by that active mind is that you can't ever go on autopilot when it comes to these animals. You always need to be thinking. And we'll go back to, the not overthinking, not, allow your mind to be flexible. And to me, that's just some of the most important things. And there's a constant evolution, like I said, to what we're doing. And I want to be ready for that evolution. So that again goes along with this. This is all I think about is, what's next? What problem am I going to encounter? How am I going to make this horse better for their owner? How am I going to make this horse better for me? And how am I going to make myself a better horseman the next day, that I get on? So it's almost maddening.
It's Sisyphus pushing his boulder up the hill.
Yes. Yeah, you're going to start it's almost like starting over all the time. And I think, since I've gotten back into jumping is, I was telling Amy, yesterday when I was taking that Dunmare over fences, is it's so weird to be almost starting over. But yes, it's coming back to me a lot quicker. Getting my legs under me. I'm a little weak in my lower legs and whatnot, and I need to get them stronger. But this is the fun part is, okay, yeah, it's all coming back to me, but the stuff that's coming back to me quickly means that there's a whole lot in front of me that's going to take longer to learn, longer to improve at. But that's me. I love to learn. So I don't,
Yeah.
that's the, sometimes the fun part about starting over and getting back into a discipline that you never thought you'd do again is yes, it's coming back. I really enjoy this. And I get to learn almost all over again, or I get to advance all over again. That, to me, yes, that's a better way. Not just learning, but you're advancing all over again at a much quicker rate, which means you're going to advance further than where you left off.
And I love how you said that too. You get to. Not that you have to start over, you have to relearn things, but you get to.
You get to, yeah, you get to, and that to me, it's not that yes, I do have to learn certain things, but I'm fortunate that I get to learn certain things, and so getting to me is just a huge part of it. Is getting to do it, not having to do it, but getting the chance to do it all over again, because second chances are awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I, as a career switcher myself, I feel like I appreciate my second career much more than I did my first one in my early 20s. I was a kid doing what I thought I needed to do. And I think when I went back to school and approached, a different degree, a different career path, it was something that I was very intentionally choosing. I feel like I got to go do it, even though it was tough and I cussed a lot. um, I got to, and it was a privilege. It was hard work, but it was a privilege to do it. So it sounds like you have a very similar feeling towards what you're doing with your
Yes.
life and with your horsemanship every day.
Yeah. The hard work pays off.
Yes, yes, for sure. Where can people find you and learn more about your work?
Well, I try to keep it simple, but my website, gazelleequine.com, and the way that's spelled out is like the antelope, Gazelle, equine.com. And then Facebook at Tommy Gazelle. And then they can also find the Gazelle Equine page on Facebook. Other than that, I'm just here at the farm, and they can message me through Facebook or the website, and that's about it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I am so fortunate to be able to pick your brain. Thanks for sharing all your wisdom and some of just your outlook, your mindset about how you work with horses. It's been so inspiring to hear. And I really appreciate your willingness to share.
It's my absolute pleasure, and it's like I say, I love talking horses, and I could talk horses all day long. So, Morgan, I can't thank you enough for inviting me onto your podcast.
Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode of the Daily Ride podcast. I am feeling inspired and empowered to go work with my horse, and I hope you are too. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as always, enjoy the ride.